The range fell silent as the wind howled across the Afghan plateau. Dust swirled around the targets in the distance, 3,800 meters away, barely visible to the naked eye. The Marines gathered around the firing line, laughing, nudging one another, their eyes fixed on the woman setting up her rifle. She was small, calm, and quiet, her expression unreadable beneath the brim of her cap. They didn't know her yet, but they were about to. Sergeant Maya Hawk Delaney had been assigned to Bravo Company just 2 days earlier. She wasn't a stranger to being underestimated, she'd lived it her entire military career. The Marines didn't mean to be cruel, but old habits died hard. The sight of a woman walking onto a sniper range with a modified rifle and a strange, custom-made scope was enough to make the veterans exchange smirks. "Hey, Delaney," one Marine called out. "You sure that thing's not a telescope for birdwatching?" Laughter rippled through the group. Maya didn't respond, she simply ran her hand along the rifle, her custom-built .338 Lapua Magnum, and whispered something to herself. "Who even issued her that scope?" Another muttered. "Looks like she pulled it off a museum shelf." Maya ignored them, she was too used to it, too used to being the quiet professional among loud egos. She had seen combat in places she couldn't even name, trained under the best sharpshooters in the special operations community, and spent nights on cold rooftops, saving lives one bullet at a time. But none of them knew that. That morning, the range was alive with the usual bravado. The men were taking turns shooting at long-distance targets, celebrating every hit past 1,500 meters. A few of them managed to hit 2,000. The cheers and backslaps were loud enough to echo. When Maya quietly approached the firing line, the laughter simmered down to amused curiosity. She unpacked her rifle with deliberate precision. Each movement was measured, silent. She adjusted the bipod, checked her wind meter, and dialed in the numbers on her ballistic app. Then, she lifted her old, scratched-up scope, the one everyone had mocked, and set it carefully on the rifle. "Ma'am," the range officer asked skeptically, "you sure that thing's calibrated?" She gave a small smile. "It will be. At 3,800 meters, even a breath could throw a bullet off by meters. The air density, wind, temperature, even the curvature of the earth, everything mattered. No one had ever hit that target. Not on this base, not even the best among them." The Marines gathered behind her, arms crossed, grins ready. One whispered, "If she even gets close, I'll buy her a steak dinner." Maya lay flat, steadying her breathing. The world around her began to blur until only the target remained in her scope, a small steel plate glimmering faintly in the desert sun. She exhaled slowly, her finger brushed the trigger. Boom! The rifle roared, a long pause followed. The bullet was in the air for nearly 7 seconds, an eternity in sniper time. Every eye was glued to the distant range. Then, ping! A faint metallic ring echoed back across the plateau. The spotter's eyes went wide. "No way." The range went completely still. "Target hit," the range officer muttered, his voice cracking slightly. 3,800 meters. The Marines froze. For a moment, no one said a word. Then, slowly, one of them whispered, "That's impossible." Maya calmly ejected the spent casing and placed it beside her. "Wind's steady, you just have to listen to it." Her tone wasn't boastful, it was quiet, the kind of confidence earned, not claimed. But she wasn't done. She adjusted the scope again, shifted a degree to the left, and fired a second round. The bullet traveled the same endless distance, and ping! Struck the same target dead center. Now the Marines weren't laughing. They were staring at her with a mix of disbelief and awe. One of them stepped forward, the same Marine who had mocked her earlier. "Ma'am, where'd you learn to shoot like that?" She looked up from the rifle, her green eyes calm. Somewhere people stopped talking long enough to listen. Later that day, as the sun began to dip, the same Marines who had doubted her gathered around her at the range. They wanted to know everything, the scope's history, her techniques, her training. She answered patiently, never with arrogance, just quiet professionalism. The old scope that had drawn laughter was one she had rebuilt herself, piece by piece, after her sniper partner, her mentor, had been killed in action. It was his scope once. He had taught her that a rifle was more than metal and glass, it was trust, discipline, and patience. Every time she looked through it, she remembered his words, "The wind doesn't lie, Hawk. You just have to learn how to listen." By the end of the day, the tone had shifted completely. The Marines who once mocked her were now lining up for her advice. They called her, "Ma'am," with genuine respect. Some even stayed late, practicing under her guidance, trying to hit targets they'd once thought impossible. A week later, during a real operation in the mountains, her calm precision saved lives. The same Marines who had doubted her watched her neutralize a threat pinning them down from over 2 miles away. Her bullet arrived like justice carried on the wind. When the mission ended and the team regrouped, the platoon sergeant walked over to her quietly and said, "Ma'am, about that steak dinner. You've earned more than one." Maya smiled faintly. "Just make sure the scope doesn't get dusty." From that day forward, no one questioned her again. Her name, Hawk, became legend around the base. Not because she was a woman, or because of the record-breaking shot, but because she reminded them all that respect isn't given to rank or gender, it's earned through quiet excellence, unshakable focus, and the courage to prove everyone wrong without saying a word. When new recruits came in and saw her old, battered scope, they'd ask, "What's the story behind that thing?" And the veterans would smile and say, "That's the scope that silenced the whole range."